Welcome back to another episode of STL Real Estate Roundtable. I'm your host, Jaden Barr, CEO and team leader of Keller Williams Realty Chesterfield. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. Blake Elsner. Blake, welcome on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here inside this awesome place. I mean, I got to give a shout out to Homestead. This is a truly incredible studio.
Yeah.
Props to them. And thanks for having me. I can't.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited to dive into just your story, and then we'll touch on all things real estate, leadership, mindset. But I want to start at the beginning, right? As I do pretty much on every episode. What got you started in a career in real estate for the people that don't know?
Yeah, I kind of joke. I never wanted to do this career. I watched my father grow up and do this, and he was so successful at doing it. And, I'm in the car trying to listen to music and trying to be a kid. And, we got to have the radio off. He's got to be on a call every second. So, I really learned, I guess, the whole process of how to align your business and your family in one. And so that kind of caught my attention, I think, after college. I actually graduated with a criminal justice degree. I thought I wanted to be a police officer, wasn't sure in that time period. As all of us, as we go back to college, it's kind of like we don't know what the heck we're going to do, right? In today's world, obviously, trades are a little more valued. So I think maybe back then I might have just gone straight into real estate had I known where I would be. So I graduated and I'm like, look, I want to grow people. I want to advance people. I knew inside real estate, inside sales, we had a name, and I'm like, let's go ahead and see if we can't just go ahead and try to build that legacy. And that's kind of what I did. And watching my dad, I got my license in 2015. And from there, he had started at some brokerages that actually aren't even around anymore. Then went over to Remax and came to Keller Williams. And I remember him, and there was about 12 other investors, I think, and they opened what was called Keller Williams, a franchise. And I'm like, Keller Williams? I would tell people Keller Williams, they're like the band? And I'm like, no, there's this company, it's out of Austin, Texas, guy named Gary Keller, and they're going to open this franchise here in St. Louis. And, my brain didn't really wrap much around it, but I'm like, that's pretty awesome. So that was in 2006. So fast forward in 2015, when I got my license, he's still there. And I joined Keller Williams. And at the time, I'm like, I'm a young agent. My dad's, one of the top dogs. I'm like, I know it all. I don't got to do anything. I don't got to learn. Well, boy, was I wrong about that. So Keller Williams, from the day when I got there, I just remember seeing the amount of training, the amount of belief systems that are put into place in order to create the most success possible for the everyday agent or the agent on a team or the team leader, because you see that, and whether it was lead generating, bold, there was so many budgeting, so many different classes on a weekly basis. I remember on top of our weekly meetings that they would hold inside the market center, and man, it would be packed. It would be packed wall to wall. I mean, you couldn't even enter in the room. You'd have tables deep of people in there. Of course, there'd be lunch, which is fine, right? You'd have a nice sponsor, which I say, hey, going forward, me and you, we want people to come sponsor some lunches. We want to have some stuff back at that Keller Williams office in Chesterfield. So reach out to us about that. But but the main thing was the community, the people, the camaraderie. Everybody was in that office, and, it was laughs and tell me some good things, tell me some aha moments. And you go through the market, go through the updates, and it really was like a sense of community. I didn't see it that way because I was kind of ignorant and immature. so I did my thing and kind of, I guess I would say was a mediocre, performance by myself, I would say. So over the course of, these 10 years, I've only grown. Obviously I've gone to Worth Clark, and now I'm back to Keller Williams, and that's kind of the short end of the story there. And the reason why was because, I saw after COVID, during COVID, it was very easy to be inside of what I like to say, a phantom brokerage, or a brokerage that exists more online, where there's less brick and mortar store, presence. And it was fine because, we couldn't even close inside title companies, right? We're closing inside of our car with masks on. And so we're like, this is perfect. Like, you're paying less fees, there's less overhead. Well, you come to find out as we get out of COVID, people want that interaction with other humans. And I think after Keller Williams went through all these different cycles, the one that has the strongest foundation, in my opinion, that not only has the technology behind it, but it still has that community and that brick and mortar feeling. So when you combine both those, my opinion of the foundation is it's the strongest out of any of them. Obviously there's some great brokerages around St. Louis, don't get me wrong, but some of the ones that are built on, cloud software, etc., to me don't hold the value that they did during the COVID years. So in my opinion, that's why I came back to Keller Williams and wanted to advance, my career, and wanted to grow and scale and elevate. And I thought no better spot to continue educating, to continue learning than Keller Williams. So that's kind of a quick little, story about that. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And I think I'm happier than ever, as strange as that sounds. I shouldn't say strange, but I think having 2 kids, right, those are some happy moments. But inside my career, I've always been one that's, I've never been financially driven in terms of, I don't want to say like I don't like money, because let me tell you, money gives you a lot of options. It's coupons to do things to advance in life. But I would always chase that deal, and I feel like chasing deals just never brought me that happiness, right? So I have found that community, that being around people, that pouring into others is my way of filling up my cup. It's not that $5,000 commission. It's not that $10,000 commission, although I need it. I love it. I got to have it, right? Yeah. But it's just not what fills me up in my happy cup, as I should say. Yeah.
So love to hear that story, and we'll put that on a promo commercial for Keller Williams, I think, here soon. But, you got the tagline, Elevate with Elsner, right? So tell me more about that. What's kind of the message behind that? And then what are you personally looking to elevate in 2026?
Yeah. So, the purpose behind that, it started out, it's me wanting to get out of my comfort zone. As crazy as that sounds, I'm like, I never thought I would connect with people. When I started that podcast, I'm like, I'm going to do this for myself because I said I wanted to start a podcast. It's happened to turn out to, be over in 14 countries, every state in the USA. And not to like brag or say anything about it, but it just shows what happens when you put your heart towards something that you want to do and you just keep working at it for fun, like in a way that's, you're just connecting with other humans around the world. Around the world, I've connected with people, and that's the power, in my opinion, of the financial gain that always comes after. So I always lead with my heart, and it seems to be like connecting, leading, pouring into others. Might not seem like, you're getting paid right up front to do all this stuff, but it seems to kind of follow that lifestyle or that life, that mindset. So
that's awesome. You mentioned maturing over the years, right? I think we're all on a maturation process, right? And whether that be in business or, personal life, marriage, as a father. Like, talk to me just about your personal growth journey and kind of like where you're at on that. Because I think, I see this a lot with realtors, right? We often pour so much into service of others that we forget to serve ourselves and make sure that we're taking care of us, right? As from a mental health standpoint, from a physical standpoint, taking care of our families, our marriages, like those type of things. So like, talk to me about just the maturity that you've grown in over the years that you mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's a great point to talk about. I obviously have to give a lot of credit to my wife, Cassidy. She's a warrior. Having 2 kids, going through IVF, she got her master's. Now she's an assistant principal. She's definitely helped me, elevate my lifestyle, my expectations. And that's a powerful, point in my life that I think, you look at your kids and you're like, these little humans rely on you every single day. And that's a rewarding thing, but it's challenging at the same time because like it can be very stressful. So I always working on my emotional intelligence. I always say somebody that has a very high emotional EQ is somebody that doesn't act on their emotions. And I think that's something that some of these high caliber humans, they don't act on their emotions. And that's a big part of being intelligent. And it's just like, some people say like, hey, if you understand your emotions and then you act on them, that's not being emotionally intelligent. So things like that. Going back to, I guess your question on how to like continue to like show up and grow for the family. I think that's just doing the right thing for the kids, showing, how to treat, your wife, how to treat others. That's a big part of, I think, what I represent now. And it starts with, you got to get clear, you got to get committed, and you got to stay consistent on what you want in life. And I think having kids helps me kind of keep myself grounded and stay on that path. Sure, yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about those 3 C's, right?
Yeah.
Clear, committed, and consistent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was just kind of a beautiful picture whenever you were talking about, coming back over. We still had your old profile picture from your previous, KW profile. And you're like, I'm quite literally coming back a different person, right? Which is a cool, just full circle moment, right? Of, making the decision to come back to KW, and you're literally like a brand new human.
Yeah, that's it. And, I've been working on that for probably 2 years now. Every day trying to really just ground myself in gratitude, because that seems to be one of the strongest things that I can do in order to, appreciate like the odds of being born. I mean, a lot of people will tell you this, they're like 1 in 365 trillion. And then you think about the odds of being born inside this country and the odds of being born, being able to have clothes on your body, to be able to have shoes on your feet, even crazier odds. So I try to tell myself that every day, like nothing's guaranteed. It's so hard to do because life is so tough, man. Like, you got bills, you got work, you got things. Like, it is a challenge. It's a grind in life, like it is. And if we don't really talk about it, it's just like the mental health side of things. Like I love talking about mental health. I love asking people like, are you all right? Like, what's going on? Like, you just don't seem like you're yourself. And I think doing that type of stuff opens up a whole different way of communicating with others. It creates trust. And so, yeah, my goal in life is to leave this earth, not like people saying, hey, I remembered. Like, I want people to go, that guy, he walked in the room and you could trust him. Like, you immediately could be drawn to him. You could be trusted. And that's the part that I think I live. I don't want to be known for, man, this guy's the number one wealth builder in the world. It'd be great if it came, but that's not really my mission. And I think once you get clear about what exactly drives you, then you build a life around it. And like I said, the fun coupons end up coming behind as long as you get clear, stay committed and consistent about what you want. I think there's no stopping.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Let's talk about kind of like the vision for your business for the next, let's say 12 months, 36 months, 5 years from now. Kind of like where do you see that going, and what are the goals that you have?
Yeah, so I definitely have I have some lofty goals, and I've never been a goal setter, so setting goals recently has been, it's a little different to me because I've always just kind of been like, hey, make this amount, go do it, figure it out, but it's not stable, right? So to have like goals to figure that part out is huge for me. So I think in terms of how I'm going to, accomplish my, like, let's just say 5-year vision, I'm running everything through Elevate with the Elsner. At some point, we might branch off and start launching podcasts as well through our my coach down in Miami at the Podcast Launch Lab. So we'll be doing that. Part of my thing is I want to create an ecosystem where there is not just a real estate transaction. There's content involved. There's other things that create a story. So that's kind of the difference that I'm trying to bring, where I'm combining the real estate world, the content world, the podcasting world into a ginormous story. Because at the end of the day, if you really think about it, it's very similar. Like a house has a story. If we always say if walls could talk, right? If walls could have their own podcasts, I say that too. Like, it would be interesting, right? If every house had its own podcast where each wall could talk to each other, I mean, I'm sure we would all listen, right?
Podcasts would do well.
Yeah, especially if you could listen to it prior to buying the house, right? Yeah, no. But no, that's what I kind of want to bring going forward, and bringing that to like, other people, like other agents at Keller Williams that are so eager to learn about content, about video, about, I don't like the term AI, but AI, like things to buy back your time, like we say, to delegate, to show that, hey, you can lean on others. Like, you don't have to do everything yourself, because that's just the fastest way to burn out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, life's, like I said, life is tough, man. Like, it is not easy. Like, so in some cases, like, give yourself a little break, right? Give yourself a little, leeway to, like, you're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day, if your heart's in the right spot and your mindset is there, you know what they say, like, you just can't lose. What's the old Notre Dame quote? Clear eyes, full hearts can't lose, right? It's true.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned being a husband, being a father. How has that impacted, your view on your career in real estate, and just how do you stay grounded amidst all the chaos that this business can bring? And talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's hard. That's being a father as well. Like, it's hard to be here. Like, you and I, we're here, creating content. We're here working. We're doing stuff. Like, this is time away from our family, right? Like, this is fortunately, as I say that, right? The way that, life has to be. Somebody's got to make money. But then there's that time where, you get home and you stay committed to that time window of really being present. And that's some of the hardest things that I can do in terms of accomplishing, is putting that phone away for 2 hours. Like, just be present. Kids are home. It's hard in our business, right? People need stuff at all hours, especially, most of the time when buyers and sellers are getting off work at 5 o'clock. They need stuff after hours. So it's hard to then go ahead and do that. So you have to find that alignment. And I think, you're never going to, I hate the word balance. And a lot of people will tell you balance is one of the worst words ever, because it'll never be balanced. It's just like marriage. I say the same thing. It's never 50-50, right? Some days it's going to be 90-10. Some days it's going to be 80-20. Some days it might be 60-40, right? It just depends on how it goes. So, you might feel like dog one day, and your wife's got to carry 90% and you got to do 10% at least, right? Maybe it's flipped the next day or the next week, but the whole you got to do this and I did that and this just doesn't work. And it doesn't work in business, and it doesn't work in trust in general. So I think how to continue to earn trust within your family is to show up and to show your kids that, hey, dad's working to better your life, but he's also going to be there in your life, present, and showing you how to not necessarily just be a man or a woman for others, but also to be open to receive. And going back to that point about realtors, and, we're always doing stuff for others. It's hard as a realtor. You got to be open to receive. You got to know that, hey, my value is high. Like, what I bring to the table is high. And if you're already telling yourself, I'm not worth it, more times than not, that's what you're going to present. People are going to feel that. If you walk into a room like, man, I'm one bad mofo, people are going to feel that, and they're going to feel that energy, and they're going to want to trust you, and they're going to eventually trust you as they learn you. They're going to do business, because that's what people do business with. They know, like, and trust, right?
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, I think, going back to just being present at home and, present in relationships and things like that, I think it's a kind of a tricky concept, right? Because you could be present, right, at home 24/7, but not really be present. You know what I mean? Where, you're distracted or you're not fully there. And or on the contrary, you could be there for a couple hours a day and be all in. And I'd argue, your kids are probably going to want that version of you more than the other version, right? So I think it's with what time you're there, be all in, be present, put the phone away, right? And that's going to come in seasons, right? You're going to have busier seasons than others, but I think, having that, being clear on what matters and then committed to being all in whenever you're there is huge.
Yeah. And you're 27. How old are you?
29.
So yeah,
29.
Sorry, 20. Yeah. And I'm 33. So I always say I figured this out 31 maybe. And so I always love to see people like yourself figure out the mindset stuff, how to carry yourself, how to, present yourself to your family, how to be a father, how to be a husband. And to do it in your 20s is very powerful, because, like I said, it took me to my 30s to figure that out. So props to you on that.
There's a book called The Defining Decade, and it talks about how your 20s are kind of the decade that sets up a lot of things that happen in your life, right? So it's a really important season. Don't want to miss it. But let's talk about kind of just mindset in general. I know that's something that you're really passionate about, and just having that growth mindset. I think when it comes to agents, I think a lot of times we have a limiting belief, or there's something that we're battling internally, or just we have those limiting beliefs all the time, right? Whether it's confidence on a listing presentation, or confidence in our lead generation, or with social media nowadays, it's just a highlight reel. You don't see all the struggle or the things that go on behind the scenes with that top agent that just closed 10 deals in the month, right? So talk to me about kind of maybe something that you notice with agents, or things that you think agents, out there could benefit from here.
Yeah. And I'll start with saying, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. Like that is like my biggest thing right now, because as realtors, I think society kind of has told people like, we don't work, we don't do a lot. And then you have these shows that show, at a time where it's like, these real estate millionaires. And so when you have this, correlation between, wait a minute, realtors don't do anything, and then you have these shows that show extremely wealthy realtors, I think you have that disconnection, and that it's like a bad correlation, which caused, in my opinion, almost like a status put on realtors, basically saying like, we don't do as much as we should, or people think we do. So I think that's part of, the value going forward, is that you have to prove and show people like, hey, we do a lot. Like, our job as a realtor is one of the most important jobs within the economy. Like, I'll say that right now, like, without real estate agents, people might laugh at this, but without real estate agents, there would be no real estate economy. There would be no real estate transactions occurring on the level that they are occurring today. I can just promise you that, because it's structured, it's systemed, everything about it, from legality. Like, people can eventually try to say, hey, the real estate agent's going to disappear. AI. No, it's just not. It's not. It's one of these things that I think it's tried to flush the bad ones out, the ones that aren't that And what it's done is prop the ones that are left over. Like, holy crap, that person just, survived like some crazy years of an industry that's, got roller coaster of emotions financially, all types. And so if you can survive that, I tell people that all the time. It's like, if you can survive now, and you can survive these past 5 years, if you've been in this business, it's only, in my opinion, going to get better. Just like this buyer's agent lawsuit stuff, like, I'm starting to see buyer's agents get paid more than listing agents now. So maybe that was the point of this lawsuit. Like, hey, we're seeing some of these buyer's agents having to do more work, a lot more work than listing agents. And these listing agents are rewarding those buyer's agents for doing that work.
Yeah.
And the sellers are, obviously, right? And they're agreeing to it. So it shows me, like, at some point, everybody's value is maybe getting reevaluated, but there's still value because every side's getting paid. And the one that they wanted to cut out is now seeming to get paid more. Mm-hmm. How, right? Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me. It's almost...
Yeah, I've got a document in all my consultation packets. It's 179 ways a realtor deserves every penny, right? And it's every step that a real estate agent takes care of with or without the client actually being aware of it. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And I think a lot of times it's kind of funny because the smoother a deal is, it's less apparent all the things that the real estate agent's doing behind the scenes, right? You want a smooth transaction, but at the same time, the client might be wondering, well, what's the agent actually doing? All the while, it's like the duck on the top of the water, right? All you see is the smooth, calm environment, but underneath the water, their legs are kicking like crazy, right? So there's always things going on behind the scenes that you have no idea what's happening as a client. And so, if your agent has survived these past few years, give them a shout out right now. Like, that's right. Give them a call, give them a text, and give them some encouragement because they're a baller. Yeah. If they made it to these years, right?
It's a good point, like you said, to leave it on this. Like, these agents, I guess that, have really put in the time, the effort, to continue to grow. I just had an agent. I was going to message her. She dropped off. She didn't know it was my house, but that's all right. She was doing the whole neighborhood. She dropped off a roll of
packing tape.
Wrapping. I don't wrap presents with wrapping
paper.
Yeah, so many presents I wrap. Wrapping paper. She had like comps connected, 2 bows, and a thing of Scotch tape on it. And I'm like, that's the stuff.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Like, I think people don't realize, like, realtors have a serious, knack for business. And I always say it's just a matter of finding the right place to go. And it might take you a few, to figure out where to land. But I can confidently say, being back at, Keller Williams and having my license there is definitely the best spot by far in terms of what I've seen being on the other side of the grass. And you know what they always say, the grass isn't greener on the other side. So some people might just realize that as well. And I always say, if anybody wants to come to Keller Williams, I would say you're the guy to talk to. If not, I would gladly talk to them as well. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, before we wrap up here, quick last question is, what's the most impactful book or podcast that you've read or listened to?
So, I've had three mentors. Adam McChesney, obviously my father's been a great mentor of mine, no doubt, but that have really changed my mindset. Adam McChesney, Builders of Authority, Mike Kitko, Inner Wealth, and then Sebastian Rusk with Podcast Suck, which is his podcast. All three have podcasts, so I listen to all three of them. Mike Kitko is probably the one that really dove the deepest into my heart, my mindset. The guy's a genius when it comes to gratitude, trying to figure out, when I say, talk about the 3 C's, he's the guy that really dives into that and pulls it out of you and says, you have a purpose in life. And if you don't start figuring out and start seeing what your purpose is in life, you're never going to be really happy. And it starts with getting rid of some things, starting to pull rocks out of your backpack that you're always carrying. And then just realizing that, hey, man, you get up in the morning, that toilet flushes, that water turns on, it's hot, the heat's on, you have food in the fridge. Just simple stuff like that you don't think that you would ever need to be coached about. But he reminds you on a daily basis, that guy, Mike Kitko, if you follow him, he truly follows what it means to have inner wealth, and that guy's full of it. So yeah, him, and then Sebastian and Adam McChesney are.
That's awesome, man.
3-1.
Well,
so
welcome back to KW.
Thanks, brother. Glad to be here.
All right. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.